Hello, wrestling fans. Damian Nelson coming to you here from the Pro Wrestling Report offices with breaking news. Just got done taping this weekend's edition to the Pro Wrestling Report and found out WWE sending out the official press release announcement that there is a guest host for WrestleMania 30, and his name is the man who is returning to WWE for the first time since 2007, a man who arguably put WWE on the map. Hulk Hogan is back. The Hulkster is back. Hulkamania will be running wild at WrestleMania. And before that, come this Monday night in Green Bay, Wisconsin, Hulk Hogan makes his return to WWE on Raw. It's going to be an interesting broadcast for sure this upcoming Monday night. And the road to WrestleMania is now red and yellow. Hulk Hogan back in WWE and will be the guest host at WrestleMania.
Coming up next on a stacked edition of PrimeTime TV.
How did the WWE do as a business in 2013? We have all the surprising facts and figures.
What did Vince McMahon have to say in his first comments about CM Punk's departure from WWE?
Why will some of you have to look long and hard for tomorrow's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view event on television? We'll tell you which carrier dropped it from the lineup.
Find out what Al Snow has to say about the relationship between a wrestler and their employer in the first edition of In Depth with Al Snow.
Find out all this and much more, and every 10 minutes someone is winning tickets to WWE SmackDown right now on an expanded edition of PWR Primetime for Saturday, February 22nd.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Saturday night, a loaded, stacked one-hour edition of the show here on My24 Milwaukee and continuing at PWRshow.com. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside David Octavius Tiberius, the alleged backyard one-time knockouts divas, straight-edge hardcore Hall of Famer, hero.
Yes.
What have you done? What is this on you?
This is the newest and greatest Daniel Bryan T-shirt.
Is it? What, you got 2 cups here? What are you drinking?
I am a part of the Yes movement.
I find that very difficult to believe.
In Minneapolis tomorrow night. I will be cheering on Daniel Bryan Danielson, and it's going to be.
I haven't seen that shirt. Is that a new release?
It's brand new. It just came out this week.
Yes. What does it say on the back? Is Daniel Bryan's face on it?
Absolutely. I would not have a man's face on my back.
It's time for this week's big story, ladies and gentlemen, and it is, of course, tied to WWE's earnings release. And while these numbers might almost bore you, the real story is why the numbers are what they are. So let's dig down into it. WWE released its 2013 earnings and business results on Thursday of this past week, and the results show the company garnering a 5% increase in revenue. And David, it's interesting because we've been talking about how business has been sort of down, but somehow or another they managed to make 5% more money than they did over the last 2 years.
But they did quite a few overseas tours.
Actually, their overseas business was not as impactful this year as the live event.
I didn't get those notes
business.
in the run sheet, so I didn't get to see that stuff.
Some of the highlights of the report. Pay-per-view revenue, however, decreased $1.1 million from 2012, but was up nearly $5 million from 2011. Now, 2011, which also included that big Money in the Bank pay-per-view where the WWE champion at the time, John Cena, lost to CM Punk. The report also shows that WWE spent an additional $10.8 million on increased production costs. One would say that's specifically tied to WrestleMania. Cost a lot to build a Statue of Liberty in the middle of a stadium.
Absolutely it did.
So pay-per-view revenues down to prior year. Some numbers specific to pay-per-views. Survivor Series down. The Hell in a Cell pay-per-view is actually up, I believe. Battleground, can't compare that to anything from last year.
So it's safe to say that the network at $10 a month is going to help their numbers.
Nobody knows. And actually later in this broadcast, we're going to talk in-depthly about the WWE Network, which launches on Monday, and why it may not be as successful as some people are hoping. One thing that was a success with WWE in 2013 were their live events and TV revenue. They increased that by nearly $20 million. Their TV rights fees, their live events, and their venue merchandise, i.e. that, were all up. Now, you talk about domestic and international, TV rights fees, a lot of that came from some new deals they signed in some international markets to get their product more distributed across the world, and they definitely are trying to do that in more areas, including, as John Cena said on Steve Austin's podcast this past week, China is a big area they're trying to get into.
X-Pac already was.
Consumer products and licensing were down $23 million. However, WWE Shop increased by $1 million. Now, overall, WWE generated over $500 million in revenue in 2013 and made $5.9 million in income. So you can call that profit, I guess. This, however, down from $43.2 million in 2012.
It's all the new John Cena t-shirts.
What does it say, though, for the status, if you will, of the company? They made money. Mm-hmm. They made less in pay-per-view revenues. They made more on live events and TV production.
Let's not forget this last year, they had The Rock back. They came back out with the
2013 you're talking about.
Yes, as far as merchandising.
Yeah.
So they sold a bunch of Rock merchandise. They came out with
They sold less overall, though.
But still at a big number.
Yes.
They had the old school t-shirts, Hall of Fame.
WrestleMania, of course, the big revenue driver for WWE. Obviously a success last year. I believe they did over a $10 million gate, and obviously all the revenues from pay-per-view, which, by the way, that might be going away too. Talk more about that later in the network discussion. But what does it say about the current status of WWE overall? They made more money than they did last year. Now, keep in mind, some of this could have been cuts, but it wasn't, because they had increased costs with the launch of the network, which I think was $15 million.
They got a new jet.
They're spending more money, yet they made more money. So as a company, WWE incredibly healthy, and Wall Street reacted as they are a publicly traded company, and their stock price is at a 15-year high.
They're not going anywhere anytime soon. And
nor should they, well, should they be changing their direction anytime soon?
Well, but I think they need to.
Well, perhaps the biggest news, though, from the WWE earnings release came in Vince McMahon's comments on the earnings call. They host a conference call and they take questions from investors. Vince McMahon said, when asked about CM Punk, his response was, and I quote, "He's taking a sabbatical. Let's just put it that way." Now, this was the first time McMahon had publicly addressed the Punk situation. And David, I'd like to pose a question to you. Firstly,
yes.
What do you think of, or how do you interpret Vince's comment? He's taking a sabbatical.
He had to. Say something.
Mm-hmm.
He knows Punk isn't going to go out and, have a rebuttal about it.
But he could have said he's taking time off. Didn't have to say that's.
But it's a sabbatical. It really is.
It was the second line of that comment, though. Let's just say that at this point. That leads to some speculation as to what's going on. Speculation being, I hereby think.
Oh boy.
I think.
That makes me nervous.
Next Monday night, Chicago, Illinois, Allstate Arena, CM Punk returns to WWE.
There is absolutely no way.
I think it's going to happen.
That's a huge mistake if they do that.
It's a huge mistake, but it's best for business.
No, it's not. It's bad for business.
Water under the bridge was Bret Hart.
I will tell you why it's bad business.
Was Hulk Hogan. Water under the bridge
on the second half of the show.
That's it for this week's big story, and now it's time for a brief timeout. But before that, folks, PWR is pleased to have signed a huge name to join us as part of the PWR experience at WrestleCon, which of course is the biggest wrestling convention that happens every year in conjunction with WrestleMania weekend. And without further ado, let's take a look at who is bringing the three eyes, David Hero, to New Orleans.
Cyclops?
It's real. It's damn real. Yeah!
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, the insurance company may try to stop you from getting what's fair.
After my car wreck, the insurance company tried to stop me from getting what was fair. I called Gruber Law Offices.
Be careful. Call us right away.
They better be careful. Now I've got Gruber Law Offices.
Call us. Let us get started on your case right now.
They green-lighted my case and got me $100,000.
Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all. Call 276-6666.
It's time for tonight's first winner of 2 tickets to WWE SmackDown coming to Milwaukee Tuesday night. Congratulations to Alex Fro. You just scored 2 tickets to WWE SmackDown. Your tickets can be picked up at the Bradley Center will call office on Monday or Tuesday. More winners coming up in just a few minutes as Primetime continues.
New Orleans, SWO, the Shenanigans World Order is coming to WrestleMania weekend. Join Ken Anderson, Demolition, Shane Helms, Al Snow, and the headliner, the main event, Kevin Nash, for a huge event. A VIP dinner and reception, a question and answer session, a meet and greet, and an after party, all part of SWO, Friday night, April 4th. Details right now at PWRshow.com. Welcome back, fans, to the Pro Wrestling Report, primetime Saturday night. Kurt Angle, David Hero.
That's huge.
Who
That's
needs
damn
anybody
huge.
else?
Well, you don't. Well, we do. I mean, we have Big Sexy. We have.
Well, I mean, in addition to the people we already have.
Well, I heard there's still more that want to come aboard.
Well,
via
we're out of
experience.
space.
Are we?
Not for SWO, the Shenanigans World Order, and after party occurring on Friday night, but at WrestleCon on Saturday and Sunday. Thank you, and very excited to have Kurt Angle as part of our experience at WrestleCon on WrestleMania weekend. But it's time for this week's hot news, folks. It's all the headlines you need, and around 2 minutes or less for those of you keeping score at home. Are you still keeping score here?
No, I stopped because you always go over.
Sad news to report as former WWE star Viscera, otherwise known as Nelson Frazier Jr., passed away on Wednesday at the age of 43. Many of you may remember Frazier as Mabel and Big Daddy V as well during his time in WWE. In a statement released on WWE.com, the company said, and I quote, "A larger-than-life superstar, Frazier was a former World Tag Team Champion, Hardcore Champion, and the 1995 King of the Ring." Frazier's agent, Eric Sims, announced that he passed away as a result of a massive heart attack. Our thoughts and prayers, of course, go out to the Frazier family. The WWE Network launches this Monday morning at 9 a.m. and will be available for purchase at WWE.com. WWE recently released the full program lineup for the network, but it's important to note that tomorrow's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view will not be available on the network until March 23rd. Also, a major pay-per-view provider has elected not to carry the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view at all because of the WWE Network launch. Find out who that carrier is later in the program as we take a deeper look at the WWE Network. PWR will keep you up to date with developments on these stories as they become available at the all-new and always better PWRshow.com. That's it for this week's hot news. Time now to hop into this week's WWE Raw report. David Hero, Raw this past Monday night. It was the Antonio Cesaro and Daniel Bryan show.
Well,
and Christian to a
it was
degree.
more of the Antonio Cesaro coming out party.
Well, opening the show, a promo that I thought was great between all the participants in the Elimination Chamber matchup tomorrow. Daniel Bryan defeats Christian. Christian, who I guess, well, did he turn heel, or is he just playing the role he needs to for this matchup tomorrow?
They needed to do that to show Christian in a different light, to make him a credible threat to win the Chamber. Because up until that point, it's just good old reliable Christian.
Yeah, there but not there.
Exactly.
Daniel Bryan getting the win in that matchup, 8 minutes or so it went. However, after the matchup, Kane makes a match between he and Daniel Bryan and then gets disqualified. 4 minutes on the clock for that one. Daniel Bryan, 2 matches to open Raw and then 2 matches to open SmackDown last night as well.
Daniel Bryan is getting a lot of TV time. They're investing heavily in him, much like the T-shirt. Yes, but
how much was it?
You'll see it on the PWR card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's expense account. The first 30 minutes of Raw, it was the Daniel Bryan show. He's their star.
But let's not dismiss the fact that Antonio Cesaro spoke in the ring on a microphone to Randy Orton this past Monday night and did a damn good job doing it.
Yes, he did. Antonio Cesaro.
It's really Cesaro now. Remember, he tweeted that out.
But he did. But I like to call him Antonio.
You know him as Antonio?
I do. He is the guy that I feel was going to replace CM Punk, and he proved it on Monday night.
What an amazing matchup, by the way, between he and John Cena.
And that's what I mean. He showed the world he is main event caliber.
Before we get to that matchup, though, other matches that occurred on Raw this past Monday night, Fandango defeats Santino in about 3 minutes. We found out a lot more about Emma, though. I really thought they needed to do this. They gave us some footage of her in NXT and told us a little bit about her.
That's not going to help. I don't think it's going to help. I think they dropped the ball and kicked it out of bounds with her 2 weeks ago.
You're done with Emma.
Yeah, right.
You're going to be watching NXT Arrival this upcoming Thursday night live on the WWE Network?
I will be.
You're buying the WWE... Oh, I'm sorry, am I buying the WWE Network?
Yes, you are, actually. Thank you very much.
Roman Reigns, folks. Another strong week for the man who will be one of the biggest stars in this business over the course of the next several years, yes, I have said it.
Wow, that's a pretty
defeats
big
Mark
statement.
Henry with the Samoan punch and the spear.
Yeah, I think they may have gotten some trouble with DC Comics.
They got away with it as long as they could.
The Superman punch.
But, I keep singing his praises, David Hero, but I can't remember the last star who has had the look, the talent, the skill, the ability.
I can tell you who. His
dat?
cousin, The Rock.
Fine. Super. We'll go back that far. Makes the point even that more valid. Roman Reigns. And I'm almost fearful of how great he's going to be and how quickly we will see it because I don't want to see it too quickly.
Do you know why Roman Reigns is going to be a big star?
Why is this?
Not because of his in-ring talent or his Samoan punch or the spear. It's because women love Roman Reigns.
Will he be one of the 50?
I think he could be.
Because I'm number 51 most beautiful people in the world.
Are you?
Yeah, 51. What are you, 923, right?
I'm still in the top 10,000.
Jack Swagger defeats Kofi Kingston. Jack Swagger with a big matchup against Big E tomorrow night at the Elimination Chamber. We'll talk about that and Be the Booker later. Big E defeats two men, Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal in about 4 minutes time. And 18 minutes or so went with John Cena
I didn't like
and Cesaro.
I didn't like the 3M or 2MB loses in a handicap match.
Why not? To Big E. Big E's a beast. It's a monster.
I understand that, but it just kills the fact that, it's two guys losing again.
Cesaro, standout match.
Huge match.
Standout match. How many times did he do the Cesaro swing? I think we got up to 15, huh?
Well,
and how the heck was he still standing?
You love all the reversals. I mean, he gave John Cena all he could handle.
It's a shame a lot of fans don't know how great Cesaro is in the confines of that squared circle.
Well, because
he is a great wrestler.
He hasn't had a chance to showcase himself.
The Wyatts get a win over Sin Cara and Los Matadores. Jey Uso defeats Billy Gunn, and Sheamus defeats Randy Orton via disqualification, which ended in a battle between all the Elimination Chamber participants.
Yes.
I also was impressed by the way they used Wade Barrett this week with the Rhodes brothers.
Well, Wade Barrett, they got to do something with him pretty quick.
We may have mentioned that or suggested it on this program a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
That's WWE Raw from this past Monday night, folks. And as we said, we're giving away SmackDown tickets all show. So we're going to take a timeout, but within that timeout, Linda has our next winner. We'll be right back.
Guys had the greatest match since the history of professional wrestling. They are so underrated. I do not know why they don't work for a major company. Well, let's look at it, okay? Here we go.
It's time for tonight's second winner of 2 tickets to WWE SmackDown coming to Milwaukee Tuesday night. Congratulations to Debbie Miller. You just scored 2 tickets to WWE SmackDown. Your tickets can be picked up at the Bradley Center Will Call office on Monday or Tuesday. Our final winners are coming up in just a few minutes as Primetime continues.
Milwaukee. On Tuesday, February 25th, WWE returns for the first time in 2014 with a huge WWE SmackDown. See all your favorite superstars live, including John Cena, Daniel Bryan, Alberto Del Rio, the Deranged Wyatt family, the Hounds of Justice, The Shield, and many more. WWE SmackDown live in Milwaukee Tuesday, February 25th. Tickets are available. WWE, the best value in entertainment.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report, prime time Saturday night. Damian Nelson and David Hero, and it's time for Be the Booker. Back in after a 7-month hiatus, I think it's been, David Hero.
We've redone my contract.
And Be the Booker is back, and in this segment, what we do is take it to this guy to determine what he would book to happen on the upcoming pay-per-view event. And tomorrow night, it's the Elimination Chamber from Minneapolis's Target Center. And the big main event of the pay-per-view is the chamber match itself. It will be for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. The participants, Randy Orton, John Cena, Sheamus, Daniel Bryan, nice shirt, Cesaro, and Christian.
Yes.
Randy Orton, of course, the current WWE World Heavyweight Champion. This one will be tricky because 2 men will start. Every 2 minutes, another man enters, or 90 seconds, whatever it is. Until all participants are in the ring, anybody can pin anyone. The last man standing wins the match.
And that's what I think is going to make this very interesting. I honestly believe one of the first 2 men should be Daniel Bryan to start the pay-per-view.
To start. And so let's say he's 1.
Right. And
so Daniel Bryan's number 1.
Yes. And maybe have Randy Orton be number 2.
Orton 2.
Yes. Again, there's that word again. And let those 2 guys battle the entire match and eliminate Cesaro, Christian, Sheamus, and Cena, so that it comes down to Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton, and let that crowd be feverishly chanting, yes, only to have Randy Orton somehow cheat to win and defeat Daniel Bryan and retain the WWE World Heavyweight Championship.
Let's go a little deeper, though. I don't doubt that that's going to happen, but let's go a little deeper. Not only one man in this match, which could be any of the men, to be honest with you,
right,
has a date at WrestleMania. Nobody else does. What's Sheamus doing? What's Cena doing? What's Cesaro doing? What's Bryan doing at Mania?
Well,
can you get there from this match?
No, you can't get these guys to their Mania matches because they're the last match of the night. But this here will then take Daniel Bryan probably against Triple H at WrestleMania in New Orleans. Randy Orton then has his date with Destiny with Batista. The other 4 guys, they still have a month and a half to figure out what direction they're going to go with. But they need to make the fans feel like Daniel Bryan has a chance to win the entire night.
Real in water?
Remember when Santino was in the chamber match in Milwaukee?
Yeah.
And he was one of the final guys in there. And everyone thought Santino had that whole Rocky thing.
He could do it. Santino could win this thing.
Yes.
Randy Orton retains the
They are going to break
championship.
everyone's heart in the Target Center.
And they should, shouldn't they?
Absolutely.
6-man tag team matchup. This is a WrestleMania caliber match, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion. It is the Wyatts going up against the Shield in 6-man tag team competition.
It's very interesting because the Wyatts, they're big guys. They don't have the wrestling technicians the way the Shield does with Ambrose and Rollins. So it's going to be a lot of...
You forgot one.
I didn't forget anybody because Roman Reigns is not a technician. So you got to figure that... What are you doing?
Stand out. Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt.
Agreed. There's going to be a lot of motion by Ambrose and Rollins, but I have to believe that the Wyatts need this victory more than the Shield, because if they're going to tease the dissension and the breakup of the Shield, it's going to have to start in Minneapolis.
Oh, wow.
I like the Wyatts to leave the victors at Elimination Chamber.
You say the Shield loses. Does Dean Ambrose cause the loss? Does some dissension betwixt the members of the Shield cause them to lose the match?
And they beat themselves? You are going to see this foundation crumble at the Chamber.
It's going to be a tremendous matchup. Fans want this.
I think it might be match of the night.
Grudge match. Alberto Del Rio versus Batista.
You don't bring the guy back to lose to Del Rio before he goes into WrestleMania.
And the plan is, at least at this point, Batista will take on the winner of the Chamber match itself.
Yes, which will be Randy Orton.
Daniel Bryan could win it. Why not?
He won't win it.
Daniel Bryan Batista at Mania, that makes Daniel Bryan a star, because the fans hate Batista.
No way. They can't do it.
The Intercontinental Championship is on the line as Jack Swagger takes on Big E Langston. Big E Langston, Big E, the champion right now.
This could be another great match. 2 big athletic guys. You got to believe Big E is going to be the guy that's going to leave, as the champion again.
Because of his big win from Hall and
I
McIntyre?
think Jack Swagger is going to give Big E all he can handle.
Tag team championships on the line. The Usos trying to take the titles from the New Age Outlaws. We saw, as we talked about before, the Usos both get an individual win over each member of the Outlaws.
Which usually means the kiss of death. I honestly believe that the Outlaws are going to retain the tag titles. They're going to defeat the Usos. And if the Outlaws will lose the tag belts, it'll be at WrestleMania. And if I'm booking WrestleMania, I'm having the Outlaws in a fatal 4-way with the Usos and 2 other teams.
The stars of the night, tomorrow night at Elimination Chamber, you say Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns, and who else?
I think Big E Langston.
Big E Langston as well.
And let's not forget Cesaro should also be showcased.
Just to summarize, folks, tomorrow night Elimination Chamber on pay-per-view. If this guy were booking it, David Hero, the New Age Outlaws would retain their tag team championships. Big E Langston would retain his Intercontinental Championship. Batista would win in his grudge match against Alberto Del Rio. And the Wyatts would defeat the Shield after some shenanigans amongst the Shield, if you will. And Randy Orton retains the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. If that were to be the case, not much comes out of this pay-per-view tomorrow except stories.
And emotion.
Leading into WrestleMania.
And emotion.
That's Be the Booker, folks. It's time now for this week's Event Center. Let's throw it on over to Linda Kay.
Welcome to the PWR Event Center, brought to you by Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all. Ring of Honor Wrestling returns to Milwaukee on March 7th with the Blockbuster Show at Turner Hall. Tickets are available right now at tickets.com. GLCW will also be at Turner Hall with a big show titled Shenanigans on March 21st. Head to blizzardbrawl.com to get all the details. WWE SmackDown will be at the BMO Harris Bradley Center Tuesday night with a TV taping for Sci-Fi. Tickets are still available now at Ticketmaster.com. That's it for this week's Event Center presented by Gruber Law Offices. And now let's find out who David Hero has chosen as this week's Diamond of the Ring.
This week's Robert Hack Diamond of the Ring is TNA's newest, biggest, and brightest superstar, TNA's Gunner. Yes, he had an unsuccessful attempt at becoming the TNA Impact World Heavyweight Champion
Great
Thursday
match.
night against Magnus.
Great match.
But what a way to bring him in and elevate him to a main event status. Great backstage vignette showing his career starting out in the military. TNA's Gunner. This week's Robert Hack Diamond of the Ring, the place where they pay cash for gold.
It's time for tonight's final winner of 2 tickets to WWE SmackDown coming to Milwaukee Tuesday night. And thanks to everyone who entered at PWRshow.com, where you can also catch the extended edition of Primetime after we go off the air right here on My 24 Milwaukee. Congratulations to Jerron Perkins. You just scored 2 tickets to WWE SmackDown. Your tickets can be picked up at the Bradley Center Will Call office on Monday or Tuesday. Thanks again to all who entered, and Primetime continues right after this.
Don't miss your chance to catch the best pro wrestling on the planet. Ring of Honor Wrestling invades Milwaukee at the Turner Hall Ballroom Saturday, March 7th with a 7:30 p.m. bell time. With appearances by Playboy cover girl and First Lady of ROH, Maria Kanellis.
You know you want to see me live and in person.
Mr. Wrestling himself, Kevin Steen.
I will package pile drive everybody.
And many more. Experience body slamming, suplex crushing, brain busting, pro wrestling action live. Visit ROHWrestling.com now for tickets and info.
Welcome back, fans, to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime here on My 24 Milwaukee. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero. Loaded show. Wow, congratulations to all of our winners of SmackDown tickets. Still to come, though, here on Primetime. We continue online at PWRshow.com when we go off the air here on My 24 Milwaukee. Al Snow joins us in studio.
For the snow.
But before that, let's talk about TNA Impact Wrestling from this past Thursday night. Another solid show in this analyst's opinion. Let's talk about the matches. Samoa Joe getting a win over Zema Ion and the Bromans. The tag team champions Robbie E. and Jesse Goddard in a 3-on-1 handicap match. While I understand showing Joe as strong, I'm not sure this was the right way to do it.
You know what? I don't like it at all. I mean, one man defeating the Bromans and Zema Ion.
Zema took the pin, though.
He had to.
Or tapped out.
He had to. He did have to. But, you know, Robbie and Jesse are starting to get a little bit of steam. They're going to be in the main event at Lockdown in Miami. Mm-hmm. They need a little more respect than that.
Is that right?
I think so.
Good match.
It's a very good match. All 4 guys are great in-ring talents. The Bromans and Zema are very entertaining. It kept things interesting. Just don't like the fact that, once again, one guy beats up on 3.
The Wolves get a win over Christopher Daniels and Kazarian, with Davey Richards getting the pin in that match.
Solid match.
4 great athletes.
I mean, tag team wrestling right there. It's almost like watching the Hart Foundation against the British Bulldogs.
Wow, that's high honor.
Well, I mean, all 4 guys are great in-ring talents.
The Wolves have really found a great spot in TNA Impact Wrestling, in my opinion.
Yes,
I was a little hesitant when they were first signed because I did not know if they were doing so for the value that they perceived they had or for the ability they would bring to the ring. And it seems like it was more based on their ability than anything else.
And you know what? They've been put in great matches with good opportunities with the Bromans and now Bad Influence.
This continues, folks. We talk more about Impact. We've got our SmackDown review. We've got our in-studio guest, Al Snow. And we also talk about the WWE Network, which launches on Monday, and why it may not be as successful as some are hoping it will be. We'll talk about all that as the show continues here online, PWRshow.com. Thank you to all of you who have joined us here on My 24 Milwaukee, and we will see you, hopefully, on our website, PWRshow.com. So, David, it continues. The show continues. We're talking more about Impact, and you made him your Diamond of the Ring this week. It's Gunner, the Viking, if you will, the man who slaps himself in the head Magnus gets a win in a championship matchup as Gunner cashed in his briefcase, but it wasn't as much Magnus's win as James Storm's turn that was a story coming out of this matchup.
I don't know if it's so much of as James Storm turning heel on Gunner. I think he's more jealous that he hasn't got the opportunity.
He has gotten the opportunity. He had a championship run. Oh, not a championship run, but he had a contender.
But every time when he lost the belt, he was screwed by Bobby Roode. Hasn't got the opportunity to become the TNA World Impact Heavyweight Champion again. And so I mean, might be a little bit of jealousy there. Gunner and James Storm are heading for a match at Lockdown. Should be very interesting. But Gunner, I mean, let's not forget, a couple years ago, Gunner was security.
Right.
All right? He is a talented guy. I mean, great look.
He almost came out of nowhere.
He did come out of nowhere.
As far as being the star he is now.
What I liked is how they reintroduced Gunner to the fan base with their vignettes they did on Thursday.
A great video piece
Yes.
on Gunner. Talking about his
Gets you
military
invested in
background
him.
and the fact that he has come up through a long road to get to where he is now in TNA, and the charisma that he exhibited in the matchup against Magnus was very impressive.
He is a star. He really is. And Ken Anderson a couple years ago, when we talked about young up-and-comers, he said Gunner's going to be one of the guys. And at that time, I didn't see it
It was
because
somewhat laughable.
Well, he was security.
At that time,
he was security for Eric Bischoff. And I'm like, I just don't see it. I was mistaken.
But it's another case of, and we talked about this a little bit in Feedback Friday yesterday, there's another case of, and I hate using this term of homegrown talent because it makes TNA seem Bush League because no one says WWE uses homegrown talent, if you will. But it's a star that they have developed and made on their own, along with many others, and that the fans, at least in Manchester on Thursday, were very behind Gunner, or were they not? Or were they just more so behind him because they were against Magnus?
I think it's a combination of both. I think Magnus is a guy that the fans don't want to like because he can't win on his own.
He's arrogant.
He is. He's pompous. He's British. And Gunner is the underdog.
Rockstar Spud, the Bromans, James Storm, of course, Ethan Carter III, all getting involved in that matchup. And damn, again, all great people, but Rockstar Spud is too damn good at what he does.
It's almost like you got a little bit of crush on Rockstar Spud.
No, because I appreciate his talents, because I think he is an amazing...
you talk about Rockstar Spud.
Here's what people wait for from me as the broadcast journalist that I am, and sitting here at this desk for nearly 16 years doing what we do.
You're that old?
I'm at least 16, clearly.
Clearly. Carry on.
They wait for me to share with them who the best stars in the world are. The Miz, Cody Rhodes, Bully Ray.
Yeah. Heath Slater. Rob Terry.
Rockstar Spud. I never endorsed Rob Terry, you prick.
You did not?
I never endorsed Rob Terry. He's a great talent, great athlete. I'd like to see him back in TNA Impact Wrestling, but I never endorsed him formally.
Okay.
Roman Reigns, I endorsed.
Everyone endorsed Roman Reigns.
What is it that you keep looking at up there? I endorsed him before everyone else got on the bandwagon. Much like I supported Cody before, I supported Miz before.
You need a reality check, bro.
Are you telling me I didn't? People don't watch the show to watch you argue with me. They want to hear my endorsements.
They
and
love
I endorse
the entertainment
Rockstar Spud.
value.
So you don't like Rockstar Spud. You don't think he deserves to be there.
No, I never
That's
said
what I
that.
heard. That's what I just heard.
I'm just saying.
You're rolling your eyes and talking about how I have a crush on Rockstar Spud.
I roll my eyes at everybody. Don't you know that?
Dixie Carter's interaction with Bobby Roode, offering him 10% of the company to stay.
What's 10% of nothing?
Stop that, really? What do you mean 10% of nothing?
Well, what's you gonna
You know, we never talked about this whole Toby Keith thing is now out there.
Yeah?
And reports are that, and remember we were talking long ago about TNA being for sale, and that there was an investor who we had become privy to before anyone else had it, and we chose not to speak of it because of the place by which we got it from, but now that's out there. And now it's being said that that deal did not go through because Dixie's daddy wanted her to continue in an on-air role and have some level of control of the company as well. Now, if that's true, it's not best for business. If that is not the case, then I wonder if TNA did this whole potential sale, if you will, put them in a better place as a company, because it was after all that they got rid of Hogan, Sting, Styles, Bischoff, all these high-paid people, and now they have the best product they've had almost in the history of the company.
It's weird, isn't it? That on the verge of being sold, it doesn't sell, and things have kind of turned around, but they've also trimmed a huge chunk of payroll off.
Absolutely. Well, they had to. They had no choice. They were about to die as a company.
They will always been having red Solo Cups.
Impact overall this past Thursday night from Manchester before we move on to London next week.
Another good, solid offering from TNA Impact Wrestling.
Here's what I'm fearful of, though. When they get back into the Impact Zone.
Ugh. Yeah. Orlando's going to screw that up. The fans in Orlando.
WWE SmackDown
You know why
last
they're going to
night.
screw it up? Because they get in for free. So they feel that they're entitled to something because they got in for free. They're not financially invested in the show. They didn't buy a ticket to get in there.
They haven't waited a year either, as the fans in the UK did. We got to get on that UK tour next year. Why don't we travel along with
I would
TNA?
love to go to the UK.
WWE SmackDown, ladies and gentlemen, last night on Sci-Fi. And as we talked about earlier in the Raw report, Daniel Bryan gets a win over Jack Swagger. However, much like Kane did this past Monday night, Vicky Guerrero puts Bryan in action again, going up against Cesaro. And he did win that matchup as well by disqualification. Kane at ringside for the matchup. You talk about Cesaro being put into being put into Punk's spot. It almost seems like maybe Daniel Bryan has been, because he's really picked up where Kane and Punk left off.
Well, I mean, Daniel Bryan is definitely going to take the main event spot that CM Punk has vacated. But I think...
Well, he'll be back on the third, though, CM Punk.
He is not.
In Chicago.
But I honestly believe Cesaro
can
take that spot as well. He's a talented guy. They finally have woken up and smelled the hummus and realized that Cesaro is a star.
It's hummus.
It's very good for you. It'll put hair on your chest.
Great matchup between those two. Cesaro, again, a standout week. And that matchup with Cena on Monday, and then the matchup
Why
with
do you
Bryan
think they're
last
giving
night.
Daniel Bryan so much airtime, so many matches? I think it's because they're trying to drown out the CM Punk chants. And by having yes, yes, yes on the first half of the show, it makes people forget about Punk not being there.
He's on a sabbatical. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Yes.
Bryan, of course, attacked by Kane after the matchup. Cesaro then getting a little bit of swagger, if you will, on Bryan as well.
Do you like that Kane keeps interfering in Daniel Bryan's business?
I don't like Kane in anything but... I don't like Kane as anything but Kane.
You don't like him in a suit and tie?
No.
Speaking of that, how was the Justin Timberlake concert?
I did go to a Justin Timberlake concert this past Monday.
Were you dancing?
I was not dancing.
Were you bobbing your head?
I will give this credit where it's due, because it is due. An amazing performer, an amazing talent, and an amazing production. I've never seen things happen in a concert environment that I did with his stage, which literally went from one end of the arena to the other. It moved. It had wheels and hydraulics and stuff. It was pretty awesome. And I enjoyed the fact that he took a shot of Rumpelmans in the middle of the concert.
He did.
He did. I did not hand it to him. Someone else did, but it happened. So, be that as it may, I mean, if we want to do a music review show, we can do that as well in all of our free time.
But you brought up the suit and tie comment. So
you did.
I did?
You're way off base here, pal. The Wyatt family defeats Rey Mysterio, Cody Rhodes, and Goldust. We didn't talk about the Wyatts and the Shields face-off this past Monday night at Raw, where, again, they didn't touch each other, but they did at the end.
I didn't like that at the end.
But, man almighty alive.
The fans want to see it, don't they?
Fans want to. It's almost like ECW Paul Heyman type booking, where you go some 6 months and two guys never touched each other, and you just kept wanting it and wanting it and wanting it. I wonder what's going to happen tomorrow night with this matchup.
Well,
we talked about it in Be the Booker earlier.
I'll be there tomorrow night in Minneapolis.
I wonder what's going to happen in this matchup, because I feel that this matchup could have occurred at WrestleMania and made some money.
I think it should be at WrestleMania to make money. I don't know why they're doing it so early. Obviously, there's bigger things on the horizon for both teams going into WrestleMania. But I think this match has the opportunity to steal the show tomorrow night.
Your dear friend Emma had a dance-off with Summer Rae. Fandango then attacks Santino Marella. Emma gets physically involved, shoving Fandango, and then, well, it looks like love is in the air between Santino and Emma.
Santino always scores, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, he's got a likable character.
But, I mean, he's always had a woman on his arm. He's had, didn't he have Maria for a while, and then he had Beth Phoenix, and then now Emma. I mean, he's been a lady killer.
Dolph Ziggler gets a win over Titus O'Neil. Darren Young on commentary, of course, providing the distraction to Titus during that matchup. Ziggler gets a rare win in that matchup. Unfortunately, most of us will forget in the next few weeks. Both Usos get a win over the New Age Outlaws this past week, one on Raw, one on SmackDown. On SmackDown, it was Jimmy Uso getting the win over Road Dogg, as Jay got a win over Billy Gunn this past Monday night.
For me, doesn't bode well.
For the Usos.
No, for tomorrow night.
Sheamus gets a win over Christian. Great matchup between those two as well. Sheamus, of course, as great as always, but Christian, a great hand in the ring.
And those two guys have history together. I mean, they've had some solid matches in the past, and, you know, Sheamus is slowly getting back on track to where he left off before he got hurt.
That is this week's Impact and SmackDown reports, ladies and gentlemen, and the show continues on with a segment coming up next, which was taped earlier in the week right here in the studio with our guest, Al Snow. We go in depth with Al Snow after this timeout here on the Pro Wrestling Report, primetime Saturday night.
New Orleans, SWO, the Shenanigans World Order is coming to WrestleMania weekend. Join Ken Anderson, Demolition, Shane Helms, Al Snow, and the headliner, the main event, Kevin Nash, for a huge event. A VIP dinner and reception, a question and answer session, a meet and greet, and an after party, all part of SWO, Friday night, April 4th. Details right now at PWRshow.com.
Welcome back, fans, to the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero, of course, and our guest, Al Snow. Al, welcome to this, your first in several weeks of time with us here on Prime Time.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. I feel very honored and privileged.
It's your first time in studio, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I'm a studio virgin, so guys, please be gentle with me. Okay? I know that you guys have your own little chemistry and your own little thing going, and I've heard all about it, but, you know, just be kind to me.
Well, quite frankly, I'm pretty sure that you and I have better chemistry than he and I does, because I like you.
Do? We're not tweeting.
We're having a moment. It's In Depth with Al Snow, folks, and over the course of the last few weeks, we've been talking about, obviously, one of the biggest stories in professional wrestling, which is that of CM Punk having walked out of WWE. And while we're not going to necessarily talk about Punk specifically, what I did want to get your perspective on, Al, was the philosophy, I guess you could say, of a performer, of a wrestler, of an independent contractor, a person who has a deal with a wrestling company, a wrestling organization, and they choose at whatever time that it's time to be done and to walk out and not give notice, not say I'm leaving, not come up with a plan, but to just literally, for whatever reason, leave the company. What would it take? How upset would you have to be as a performer to reach that point?
Gosh, you know, that would be an individual's question, not a question for me to answer for somebody else, because it would end up being total speculation. You know, for me, it would have to be a situation, because you have to understand that professional wrestling is never a job. It's not something that you're hired for. You cannot be fired for that. That's been created as a myth by fans who don't quite understand and have never been in it.
Can't be fired, you said.
It's not possible.
Really?
You're never hired. You're given a contract. The contract it states a business relationship. The relationship is that the promoter will front the majority of the money, but then he is going to give you the opportunity to present yourself on his TV show to allow you to advertise your product, which is you, to not wrestle a great match, but to create a traction that will then motivate people to come pay to see you. And the more that people pay to see you, then you get a third of that money. The typical formula from years past has been that the promoter would take a third of the gate and then split it amongst the wrestlers, and then take the other 2/3, which was rightfully his, because he has to pay the rent, and then he had to front the money to pay for TV and etc. It's never at any given time like a job like Walmart, or where you're hired, you perform certain services and duties, and then you're compensated for performing those services and duties. You're basically entering into a partnership with the promoter, and then at some point in time, either based on the promoter's decision, or in this case, the talent's decision, you are going to sever that relationship and move on. It's a rare situation, and it would take dramatic circumstances that I know nothing about, that a talent would ever sever that relationship and just walk out. They should never, from a business standpoint and a etiquette standpoint for the rest of the other wrestlers within the company, should ever do that. They should always give notice, not just for the benefit of the promoter, but for the fellow talent who sacrificed themselves to put that performer in that position so that they could then, when a wrestler loses, it's called doing a favor. And we refer to it as doing the favor because it's expected that the favor will be returned at some point in time, or if necessary. It's all based on if it's necessary. And if you are that person that we've all decided, for whatever reason, that you're going to be the thing that we think is going to be the person that's going to sell tickets, that's going to drive the house, well, we're all going to do you the favor. We're all going to put you over. We're all going to not just let you beat us, but we're going to make you look better than you actually are. Because that's another misconception. Wrestlers they're not sole stars unto themselves. It doesn't work that way.
But a lot of talents feel that it works that way.
Well, of course they feel that way.
And shouldn't they?
And no, they should not.
They shouldn't be there to be the number one guy and
absolutely.
To believe in their
They
head.
should be there and be the number one guy. They should be the thing that draws the house. You are only two things in professional wrestling. You're either the thing that sells tickets or you're one of the things that helps sell tickets. But you can't be the main event without the opening match.
Right.
It's not possible. You can't be a heel without a babyface. You can't be a babyface without a heel. You can't get over without somebody being willing to put you over, because guess what, boys? You don't really win. I hate to break it to you. And guess what? The guy that just you beat, he didn't really lose. So without that, that's why we shake each other's hands. It's this misconception too, another myth that we shake each other's hands based out of respect. It has nothing to do with respect. I could hate your guts and I'll shake your hands. It's because I need you to make money. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to, is that for a performer to just suddenly depart and not give notice and now return the favor and pay off what has been given to him and give it back before he leaves, that sometimes causes ill will and bad feelings.
As a performer, great point by the way, but as a performer,
tons of great points.
Have you ever been in a situation with the many companies that you've worked for where you thought about leaving, where you thought about walking out?
Sure, yeah.
What stopped you?
What stopped me was, at the time, they rolled my contract over and kept me for another year. So then I worked a situation to where I could be put on loan to ECW. But my situation was where I knew where I was stuck in the spot that I was at, and a lot of it was my own mistakes. That if I had not left, then I would remain in that position going forward. So I had to go someplace else, basically get myself over so that they could see me and then want me back, or somebody else would see me and want to take me away. So.
Several stars have done this in the past. Obviously, most recently CM Punk, and we've talked about Stone Cold Steve Austin. We've talked about Shawn Michaels, Brock Lesnar, but none of them showed up one day, well, Austin did, showed up one day and said, I'm not doing this, I'm done, I quit, I leave. As an agent.
He did. Yeah, he did.
Austin did, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But as an agent with TNA Impact Wrestling, wrestler walks up to you, says that, does that, what's your reaction? What's the impact on them, knowing that likely it's all going to get smoothed over eventually, but what's the future impact on them as a performer and their standing with the company?
Well, I don't know. That's based on the company. If I were running the company, then that would tell me that I'm not going to be able to rely on this guy to do business.
Yeah.
That when it comes, because it's not his choice as to what business I do. Meaning, so who goes over, when they go over, why they go over, how they go over. That's not the talent's prerogative. That's mine, if I'm the guy running the company. And if I run into a talent that then now doesn't want to do business the way that I want to do business, and if he hasn't got a how about this that still gets my business done the way I want it to get done, but just his way, I don't care if if he wants to do it his way, that's fine. But as long as we get my business done the way I want to get it done, that's fine. But if he won't do business, well, then that just makes me decide that I'm now not going to trust him to do business going forward. So now I'm going to pull back from him, and rightfully so.
He's damaged.
Well, of course, because I'm now not going to put so much into him and put him now into another position to where I need him to be in a crux, a crucible of a type of a position that now he's going to, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We can't do it. I mean, it's the business really, as much as it's distrustful and as much as it's mistrustful, it operates on one premise, and that is trust. It's 100%. You have to trust the other person in the ring with you. You have to trust that they're going to do the right business with you. You have to trust that the promoter is going to pay you what you've agreed to be paid on a fair scale. You have to trust that he's going to do the business that he has agreed to do business with you. It's a very the wrestling business is a very unique and weird business, especially to people that aren't in it, and it's very difficult to describe or for people to properly understand it. You can intellectually understand everything I'm telling you, but not living it and experience it is a different world.
And if you could, because that's a point we've obviously known and tried to explain to the audience for a while here, but unless you have been, and quite frankly, I've not been in the business, if you will. Dave, of course, you book shows, you are in the business, but how do you explain that it is indeed a business as opposed to a fandom of a fan reactive situation where the companies have to make decisions based on
money,
what the fans are reacting to?
No, based on money. Not what the fans are reacting to.
What they're taking action on.
No, not what the fans are taking action on. What will motivate a person to leave their comfort of their home and spend $35 and up and sit in an uncomfortable seat for 2.5 hours? That ultimately, no, not even buy a t-shirt. No. It's nothing to do with merchandise. Merchandise is a secondary avenue. The primary existence of this wrestling business is to sell tickets, is to put asses in seats. You watch commercials for movies. How much does it take for you to motivate yourself to get up out of your couch and go out of your house and drive to a movie theater and pay $30 to go watch a movie?
And possibly get shot.
These days. Do you understand?
Yeah.
The sole existence of a professional wrestler is not to sell t-shirts. I'm sorry, it's not. It's not to sell mugs. It's to motivate people to go to the live event. If you don't motivate people to go to the live event, then the live event will not give them the experience they want to generate the motivation to watch your TV product, which then drives your pay-per-view buy rates and your merchandise.
All rolls together.
It's just like the music business. Why, still to this day, even though the music business has changed, it's different now, which it really isn't. It's just evolved and it's grown. It's a different avenue to sell music. But what does every performer, in order to sell music, what do they have to do?
They have to make a connection.
They have to go on tour.
Oh, yeah.
Miley Cyrus is performing at the Bradley Center.
Justin Bieber?
Why? Why is Justin Bieber? He should sell records just based off of what? Just all the publicity.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't sell. That doesn't sell music. It doesn't move the product. It has to be that you have to connect with them in a live experience that then drives them to want to see the product on TV, that then drives the buy rates for the pay-per-views and the merchandise. That's the way it goes. It's never changed. The wheel's still round. It hasn't become octagonal or hexagonal as much as everybody would love to believe that they've reinvented the wheel.
It was six-sided for a little while, though.
Well, but even after the SummerSlam pay-per-view, Vince McMahon said that the event was a swing and a miss because
The attraction.
Because the attraction wasn't. How did he phrase that?
It said that they went with the wrong attraction. Events are attraction-based, and that particular attraction was a swing and a miss.
Correct. Wrestlers are attractions. They're not wrestlers. Their job is to motivate people to pay to see them.
You said the business hasn't changed, and you said something pretty profound at a recent TNA event to us, and it was based on the fan reaction to something that was going on in the ring, and you said, and people say the business has changed.
Right.
You don't believe it has?
Not at all. It hasn't. Not one bit. It's grown.
Yeah.
It's evolved, certainly, but it hasn't changed. Not one iota. It hasn't changed.
At its core, it's the same as same as it was in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s.
Same as it was in the 30s, the 20s.
Cheers and booze?
No. There is intrinsically, in all forms of entertainment, there is one thing that you're going to sell. In magic, the one thing that they're selling is the idea, the belief that the magician is somehow altering the laws of physics. That's the thing he wants you to believe in. And that's the thing that you're paying to believe in. And the better that he can get you to forget and allow you to believe that, the more entertained you are. Please understand, that's the sole thing he's selling you. Now, he's doing a lot of other stuff, and we can agree that magic has clearly changed and evolved and grown over the years, right? But that intrinsic thing that he's selling has never altered. It's not changed since the Middle Ages. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. So now, there is only one thing that's fake about professional wrestling. It's the one thing that's been fake since the dawn of it starting. It's the one thing that was fake when Frank Gotch faced George Hackenschmidt. It does not change. When the bell rings, when the pyro stops, the music ends, and the bell rings, it's exactly the same thing. Now, has it grown? Has it evolved? Certainly. But what is that one intrinsic concept that you're selling the audience and the audience is paying to believe in?
The wrestling action.
No, the finish. That the outcome is real. Now, let's go this step further. There is only one thing that is fake in boxing. What is that? Just the
paydays?
Just the finish. There's only one thing that's fake in MMA. Now, keep in mind, too, that I helped train Dan Severn for UFC 4 and was standing there when he was taken aside and talked to for Hoist Gracie and the tournament that night. So what's the one thing that's fake in MMA? Yeah, that's right. So you can punch somebody as hard as you want. You can kick them as hard as you want. But if you don't do it to try to win, it's still fake. You guys understand? So there's nothing new that's fake. In 1910, when they went out there to wrestle, they were selling the audience on the fact that the win was everything. We should still be trying to sell everybody on the fact that the win is everything. And the audience, that's the only thing they pay to believe in, is they pay to believe in your character, who you are, what you stand for, and then how you would go about, based on who you are, to try to win and try not to lose. That's it. Why is that so important? Well, because baseball, football, and basketball all have huge audiences for one reason and one reason alone. Do you guys know what those are?
For the see who wins the game.
Relatability. Everybody's played them as a kid in their backyard or in their driveway. They've touched the ball. They know what it feels like, so they can relate. That's why more men historically have watched sports than women. That's why more women are now watching sports than they did before, because more women are playing sports. That's why Canada has a much greater audience for hockey than the United States, because more people in Canada play hockey. It's pretty simple. That's why soccer is bigger all over the rest of the world than it is in the United States, because soccer has been played by everybody else all over the world, and it's not the United States. That's why soccer will eventually take the place of football, because more kids are playing it right now. There are soccer leagues everywhere. So in the next 10 years, we'll have a professional soccer league all over the United States. It's relatability. It's knowing what it feels like on the screen. You guys have never been in the ring. Do you know what that ring feels like when you take a bump? How about hitting the ropes, doing a drop kick, taking a backdrop, doing anything off the top?
With Kevin Thorne, remember?
That wasn't a match. That was an exhibition.
But do you know what any of that physically feels like? Of course you don't. Neither does the general audience. Notice I said general audience, not these guys that are fans that watch it every day, no matter what, and they live and breathe it. But the actual general audience doesn't know what it feels like. If you were to ask them what the ring is, they'd say a trampoline or a mattress. So we're not going to try to make them believe the moves are real. We're going to try to make them believe the moves that we do and the reason we do them is real. I could do whatever I want. I could set the guy on fire, but if it doesn't look like I'm trying to win, it has no consequence for him. And if it has no consequence, then it has no connection. If it has no connection, then it has no emotion. If it has no emotion, it has no drama. If it has no drama, it has no heat. And heat is what sells tickets. Heat is not an offense in the match. Heat's a want, a need, a desire that you build within the audience, that the odds were improved the next time, their favorite guy would win. Thus, they pay the money.
And we'll have to stop it at that point. Great points made, and one point you made was about the characters and people getting behind the characters, getting invested in the characters, if you will. Next week, as we go more in depth with Al Snow, we're going to talk about some of those characters, specifically in TNA Impact Wrestling, because there are quite a few worth discussing, I think.
Okay.
So we're going to take a time out, and when we come back, it's more PWR Prime Time Saturday night.
Sit there on the edge of your seats.
This past week, both TNA and WWE started to build 2 lower mid-card stars to semi-main event status. Both Cesaro and Gunner, 2 old-school type wrestlers, were elevated by building strong backstories and solid in-ring performances. With both companies losing their internet darlings in CM Punk and AJ Styles, both powers that be have decided to roll the dice and attempt to create these new stars. I honestly believe that if given time to grow, both Cesaro and Gunner can both be main event type players. And with that, David Hero has spoken.
Wow, David, you have a love fest for Gunner this week, and I'm not judging you.
Well, Gunner,
not going to accuse you of having a crush on him like you did with me with Rockstar
Gunner's
Spud.
been a super friend for a while, and I'm happy of his newfound success.
Why are you leaning back? We're on TV.
Well, I was getting comfortable.
Present yourself.
I am presenting myself.
Speaking of presenting, and by the way, thanks Al Snow. Always great. He gets passionate very quickly about things.
He gets heated.
I think it's an interesting perspective, again, of what it might take for a wrestler to walk out of a company and what how the office may react to that wrestler.
Uncle Al was in OVW when CM Punk was there.
And that's something that, and Al joins us again next week, and something we'll touch on. He was the man behind such stars as John Cena.
He helped
Batista,
in the training.
Brock Lesnar.
Yes, Randy Orton.
But be that as it may, folks, WWE Network launches on Monday morning at 9 a.m. Here's one question that really needs to be asked.
Will you be awake at 9 a.m.?
Will it work? Will it work? We've heard all this greatness, and us as fans want the network. I can't wait to have the network available on my devices. I can't wait to have another option in addition to Netflix and Hulu. I can't wait to be able to watch every pay-per-view ever presented from WWE, ECW, WCW. I can't wait for the new programs such as Legends House featuring our dear friend Mean Gene Okerlund. I can't wait for the network. I can't wait to give WWE my $9.99 a month for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. But as we talked about earlier in Hot News, one large provider with 12 million subscribers has already pulled WWE pay-per-view events from their schedule, that being Dish Network. DirecTV may be next. Comcast may be next. Time Warner may be next.
They won't.
Here's why, folks, and it's sort of summed up in the statement that Dish released about this, and I quote, they said, Dish will not offer the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view on February 23rd. WWE is not willing to adjust their pay-per-view costs to satellite and cable companies, which is unfair to their customers. We need to refocus our efforts to support partners that better serve Dish customers. Other satellite and cable companies, including DirecTV, have also expressed that they may no longer provide WWE pay-per-view events in the future. So, that's that crap that we always hear when a network and the cable company is
it's
fighting.
all positioning.
But these companies and the talents, by the way, have questions about their revenue streams and how they're going to make money on this now that WWE is offering their pay-per-view events, which has been a significant business driver for everyone for a very long time. They're offering them on their own channel via their own network for a subscription-based model, and the questions haven't been answered.
No, but they will be. But let's face it, Dish Network may not offer it, but they'll offer WrestleMania.
They're taking it on a quote-unquote month-to-month basis.
Exactly. So they'll do WrestleMania, they'll do SummerSlam, they'll do Survivor Series, and they'll do Royal Rumble.
But is this not helping the WWE Network? Doesn't help necessarily for Elimination Chamber tomorrow night.
It's just going to drive more subscriptions for them.
But we do know that, and as we joke about Michael Cole explaining to the universe how to download the app, well, now we're going to see these explanations on how to buy the network. At times, what does Damian Sandow call the fans?
Mouth breathers?
At times, technology is not the strong suit of a lot of people. So there's going to be challenges with them accessing the network. People are still asking whether or not the network is going to be provided on their cable provider, where that question has been clearly answered. So let's clear that up again. No, you can't watch it on TV per se unless you have a smart TV or you have your device connected to your TV. It gives you options and flexibility, but you won't get it on your Time Warner, you won't get it on your Comcast, you won't get it on your Charter, you won't get it on your Cox, you won't get it on anything. You will only be able to get it via buying the network at WWE.com and using it on one of your devices. It's a cable provider, Cox. Cable, C-O-X.
I know. Forget it.
There is still no deal for WWE programming with NBC Universal or anyone else, meaning the deal for Raw to broadcast on USA, for SmackDown to broadcast on Sci-Fi, it's not re-upped. It's not re-signed.
What if they go to Spike?
They could talk to Viacom, because now the exclusive window by which they had to only negotiate with NBC Universal has expired. So now they can talk to
this is now coming out.
The Viacoms of the time. Really? Now coming out? Did we know this as well?
I thought we mentioned it.
Stop being arrogant. Remember that comment we've got?
I'm not. I'm thinking out loud.
They could talk to a Viacom. Remember, it was Viacom who took WWE from USA back in the day, in that 5-year absence before they went back to USA. They could be very interesting.
That could be interesting for TNA Impact Wrestling.
Could be very. But look what it did to ECW.
They went away.
Put them out of business.
Yes. Huh. One of those things that.
Now that should not happen, and I don't want it to happen. But if you're Vince McMahon sitting at your red desk in your office,
hey, whichever check cashes first wins.
Spike TV though sees the value in TNA programming. They know wrestling. Viacom knows wrestling. However, who's to say Raw and SmackDown can't end up on the WWE Network?
Oh, that won't happen.
They're seeking hundreds of millions of dollars.
$300 million
in television rights fees for their programming, and justifiably so. They're looking at NASCAR and NHL kind of money, because those shows, which are less viewed than WWE programming, are making tens of millions of dollars more in television rights fees from the networks that are buying them. So WWE is playing this very, very smart. Wall Street believes it, as we talked about earlier in the earnings. They know that they are positioned to, they think they're going to triple or maybe even quadruple their revenue next year.
Which they will.
By these two moves.
They absolutely will.
But here's the thing.
Oh, here it is.
WWE making a lot of money off all this. They still haven't explained to the talents what it's going to mean for them, because currently they get pay-per-view bonuses. Mm-hmm. They get live event bonuses. They get merchandise bonuses. Don't necessarily make anything from the television stuff, but that's a big part of their pay. And that question has not been answered. Now, I speculate that they haven't answered it because they don't know how many people are going to buy the network, and they don't know how much money they're going to. They have an idea, of course. 10 million people have downloaded the app, so you got to figure if at least 10% of those buy the network, there's your million subscribers they're hoping for in the first year.
It's 10 million a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
But keep in mind, on a WrestleMania, what are they bringing in revenue from pay-per-view? Some near $50 million just on that one event. So there is some risk there. So my question is this. We're going to order it. Linda's going to order it. Steve's going to order it. Andy's going to order it. Jack's going to order it. Frank's going to order it. Frank won't.
Meathead probably won't.
Frank won't order it. He's going to figure out a way to get it for free.
He will.
But will the network be an initial success, or will it be a long-term success?
It's going to be it'll be initial and long-term. Because people are buying it not just for the pay-per-views. It's
true. But that's the selling point.
My only concern is after 6 months, how many are going to resubscribe? Mm-hmm. Because some people will stay home in their basements and watch everything the first 6 months.
Well, it's scheduled programming. There's the on-demand element, but it's scheduled programming as well, which is smart. But I'm definitely not going to find my phone at 9 o'clock on Thursdays to watch NXT. I'll watch it eventually.
Right.
All right, so you think it'll be a success short-term and long-term? I would tend to agree, but I think it is important, again, to recognize those risks that exist with the network. So with that, that's a show, folks, a stacked show, a loaded show. I think we've gone solidly over an hour, David Hero, but be that as it may.
Yes, we have.
Content is king, and we'll have more for you next week here on the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. David Hero, you're going to be joining your closest friends at the Elimination Chamber at our suite tomorrow night. SmackDown in Milwaukee on Tuesday night. It's going to be a great week for professional wrestling. Shawn Michaels in Milwaukee today, by the way.
Let's not forget Raw in Green Bay.
And then CM Punk returning to Raw on the following week.
Not going to happen.
Let's talk about that Raw in Green Bay real quick. Rumors that two big stars are returning. I don't necessarily believe them, because I don't believe it till I see it. Hulk Hogan and The Undertaker. Guess what that means? SmackDown here in Milwaukee on Tuesday. They could be there, folks. Get your tickets early, or win them from us if you already have. For that one, folks, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week here on Primetime Saturday night.